Welcome. This presentation will provide a walkthrough of the combined balance sheet template, the standardized form used to request a free cash certification from the Bureau of Accounts. Other forms and submissions will also be introduced. In the Balance Sheet module in Gateway, you will find the Balance Sheet submission page. There, the Bureau requires you to upload the completed combined balance sheet template and the system-generated general fund trial balance, as well as the system-generated undesignated fund balance roll forward. All of the other required forms must be in Form Submit status prior to submitting the balance sheet submission page. The combined balance sheet template must be completed by the accountant or auditor of the city or town. There are several tabs in the workbook in addition to the combined balance sheet, such as tabs for the fund balance detail for each fund and the undesignated fund balance roll forward. The Bureau has provided an instruction tab for each of the workbook tabs. It is important to read all of these instructions. This slide shows an example of the Assets section of the combined balance sheet. This is an example of the Liabilities section of the combined balance sheet. Please note that in the Trust and Agency Fund column, we have provided an agency fund line in this section, if that is where the agency funds are accounted for. This is an example of the Fund Equity section of the combined balance sheet. It is important to note that for each fund, and for the total of the combined balance sheet, assets must equal the liabilities plus fund equity. Also note that the undesignated fund balance account is located in this section of the balance sheet. This is the General Fund Accounts Receivable tab. On this page, please report the receivable balance any related deferred revenues or amounts received by September 30th. Please do not include any property tax or excise. This is an example of the Special Revenue Fund Balance Detail tab. The total in the fund balance column must agree to the total Special Revenue Fund balance on the combined balance sheet. This is an example of the Capital Projects Fund Balance Detail tab. The total in the fund balance column must agree to the total capital project fund balance on the combined balance sheet. This is an example of the Enterprise Fund Combining Balance Sheet. The total column for this balance sheet must carry forward to the combined balance sheet's Enterprise Fund column. This is an example of the Trust Fund Balance Detail tab. The total in the fund balance column must agree to the total capital trust fund balance on the combined balance sheet. This is an example of the Agency Fund Balance Detail tab. The total in the fund balance column must agree to the total agency fund balance on the combined balance sheet. This is an example of the Internal Service Fund Combining Balance Sheet. The total column for this balance sheet must carry forward to the combined balance sheet's Internal Service Fund column. This is the Undesignated Fund Balance Roll Forward that must be completed in the combined balance sheet template. The Bureau has provided instructions on this form for its completion. The starting point for the free cash calculation is the prior fiscal year end's undesignated fund balance, which should, after showing this fiscal year's activity, roll forward to the current fiscal year's ending undesignated fund balance. As stated earlier, one of the requirements for the certification of free cash is the balance sheet checklist. This blank form can be found on the balance sheet landing page in the balance sheet module in Gateway. It is completed by the accountant or auditor. Once completed, this form must be uploaded in Gateway to the balance sheet checklist page in Gateway. This, along with the combined balance sheet, is a very important form used in the certification of free cash. Once free cash is calculated by the Bureau, the free cash amount is proved to be within a range of reasonableness plus or minus 15%. The answers provided on the balance sheet checklist are used to perform that proof. Therefore, the accuracy of the answers provided is of great importance. Incorrect answers can cause a delay in the proving and therefore certification of free cash. Since free cash is generated from variances to amounts budgeted for the fiscal year, the questions on the checklist mainly center around what those budgetary variances are and whether there are any other factors which may impact the free cash calculation. The cash reconciliation form is also located in the balance sheet module in Gateway. It must be completed and submitted there. It is completed by the accountant and treasurer. This form shows the treasurer's cash balance. It also shows the cash balance in each of the funds on the combined balance sheet, along with any reconciling items that will cause the accountant's balances to agree to the treasurer's cash balances. The ending balances should agree, and if they do not, the variance is a deduction from the free cash amount. The outstanding receivables report is located in the balance sheet module in Gateway. It must be completed and submitted there. This form is completed by the accountant or auditor and the treasurer and collector. This report shows the balance of outstanding receivables in the collector or treasurer system and the outstanding receivables balances in the accounting system. These balances must agree, and if they do not, the variance is deducted from the free cash calculation if the variance relates to property tax receivables. The snow and ice data sheet is located in the balance sheet module in Gateway. It must be completed and submitted there. This form is completed by the accountant or auditor. It is used to determine whether a city or town's snow and ice deficit is legal or illegal and deducted from the free cash calculation. A snow and ice deficit is legal and not deducted from the free cash calculation as long as the current year's initial appropriation is at least that of the prior year's initial appropriation. The amount entered in the original budget line automatically fills to the prior fiscal year line in the subsequent year. The statement of indebtedness is located in the balance sheet module in Gateway. It must be completed and submitted there. It is completed by the treasurer and accountant. This form completion is a two-step process. The first step is completion of the debt data directly into the Gateway data entry form as shown. The second part of this process is that the treasurer must complete the Excel version of the statement of indebtedness and upload it to this page in Gateway. This second form is more detailed in nature. It has multiple sections for long-term debt shown here. Short-term debt, authorized and unissued debt, long-term debt by issue, and short-term debt by issue. The totals in these sections must agree to the data entered directly into Gateway. The treasurer's year-end cash report is located in the balance sheet module in Gateway. It must be completed and submitted there. It is completed by the treasurer and accountant or auditor. This form completion is a two-step process. The first step is completion of the debt data directly on the Gateway data entry form as shown. The second part of this process is that the treasurer must complete the Excel version of the treasurer's year-end cash report and upload it to this page in Gateway. This second form is more detailed in nature. This part of the form shows the amounts in various types of accounts, the interest rate, and the financial institution where the funds are located. The totals on this report must agree to the amounts entered directly into the Gateway form. The grand total of cash on this report must also agree to the treasurer's cash amount at the top of the cash reconciliation form. The system-generated general fund trial balance report is uploaded by the accountant or auditor to the balance sheet submission page in Gateway. This is where the amounts entered in the general fund column on the combined balance sheet originate. It is used to verify that the amounts in the combined balance sheet are actually what is in the ledger system. The system-generated undesignated fund balance report is uploaded by the accountant or auditor to the balance sheet submission page in Gateway. It is used to show that the amounts in the undesignated fund balance roll forward in the combined balance sheet are actually from the ledger system. Once the combined balance sheet and other free cash documents previously discussed are submitted in the Division of Local Services Gateway system, the review of the documents and calculation of free cash can begin. The field representative calculating free cash must determine that the balance sheet is, in fact, in balance, meaning assets equal liabilities plus fund balance for each fund and in total. The amounts in the general fund on the combined balance sheet are agreed to the system-generated trial balance to ensure that the amounts on the combined balance sheet are what is in the financial software of the community. During the Bureau's review of the trial balance, the field representative determines whether any of the real estate or personal property levies contain credit balances. These would be indications of overpayments by taxpayers and deducted from the free cash calculation. The field staff also review the receivable balances for each fund to determine that either the amount was deferred as a liability and is not calculated as part of revenue, or that it was received prior to September 30th. If this accrued revenue was received prior to September 30th, it is not deducted from the free cash calculation. If the revenue is shown as a receivable, so not actually cash in the door, not deferred as a liability, and not received by September 30th, then a deduction from free cash is made for the revenue not yet received. For each fund on the combined balance sheet, the detail of fund balances that agrees to the total fund balance amount on the combined balance sheet is reviewed. The account detail is also reviewed to ensure that all the accounts comply with Massachusetts general laws or regulations. Any fund balances in deficit for which a subsequent receipt is not received by September 30th, or for which no temporary debt to cover the deficit is issued, are deducted from the free cash calculation as an illegal deficit. Finally, the reservations of fund balances in the general fund are reviewed to ensure that they properly and fully reflect prior outstanding spending commitments of the community. Once the calculation of free cash is complete, the rest of the free cash process begins. Amounts on the other free cash documents described earlier are agreed to the combined balance sheet. A roll forward of the undesignated fund balance account is performed taking the ending undesignated fund balance from the prior fiscal year, reversing prior year reservations of fund balance, establishing reservations of fund balance for the current fiscal year, closing the revenues, expenditures, and recording any audit adjustments, coming to the ending undesignated fund balance of the current year. This analysis is agreed to the system-generated undesignated fund balance report from the accounting software. A reasonableness proof of free cash is then performed. The answers to the questions provided by the community in the balance sheet checklist are used to construct the components of free cash, coming within a range of 85% to 115% of the actual free cash calculation. The free cash documentation is then assembled by the field representative with the free cash calculation and proof. This package is given to the supervisor in the region for review and certification of free cash. For more information on this topic and for contact information for the Bureau of Accounts, please visit mass.gov/DLS.